Close your eyes. Imagine this. You've just survived a crash. Thank God you're alive. A bunch of you survived too, but some didn't. Their bodies are lying there, cold, lifeless. At first, things don't seem hopeless. You gather what little food you can, some chocolate bars, some bottles of wine, scraps scattered from the wreckage. And everybody agrees to ration it. A square of chocolate here, a sip of wine there. You even strip the plain seats and use the metal for the snow to melt, for you guys to have water to drink. But the days drag on. The snow is endless, the cold is unforgiving. Then you hear it on a tiny radio. The search has been called off. Nobody is coming. Hunger twists your stomach, cracks your lips. You can't think, you're so hungry. Around you, frozen stiff in the ice, are the bodies of those people that died. At first, it's unthinkable to cut into flesh and eat it, God forbid. But as the weeks stretch on, starvation speaks louder than morality. Finally, somebody just snaps and slices a strip of frozen flesh off and eats it. Others follow him to do it. Would you follow them? Would you eat? This isn't a horror movie. This really happened. In 1972, a plane carrying a Uruguayan rugby team crashed in the Andes. And for 72 days, the survivors stayed alive by eating the bodies of their dead teammates. Until finally, two of them, Fernando Parado and Roberto Canesa, they hiked for 10 days through the mountains. They found help and they led the rescuers back. In the end, 16 people survived, walked out alive, and when they told their story later, they said it wasn't for ritual, it wasn't madness. They ate human flesh for survival. Now let's leave the Andes and let's come to Africa. Late 1800s, Ethiopia. It starts with cattle. A deadly plague called the rinderpest, it sweeps through the land. By the time it ends, almost 90% of Ethiopia's cattle are dead. And in a country where cows mean milk, meat, farming, this is a disaster. Crops fail, drought follows, the famine begins. It is called the Great Famine, and for good reason. Historians estimate up to 3 million people died, nearly a third of Ethiopia's population. Missionaries and travelers who were there, they described scenes and sounds that are just unreal. People collapsing in the streets from hunger, villages completely empty, children crying over the bodies of their parents. And then came the darkest part, cannibalism. Reports described starving families cutting into the flesh of the dead. Corpses were no longer buried, they were carved up for food. Some even claimed that strangers disappeared on the road, suspected of being killed for meat. One account said that people had been reduced to eating bark from the bark of trees, leaves, even dirt before they finally turned to human flesh. It wasn't madness, it was hunger beyond imagination. And when normal life collapsed, so did every taboo. Now, fast forward a century, right? Same continent, but this time it's war. The Ituri region of Congo, early 2000s. Militias are everywhere. Hema, Lendu, government forces, rebels, villages are burned, farms destroyed, people fleeing into forests. Listen, food is gone. Starvation takes over. The United Nations investigated the war crimes here, and the testimonies that they heard, shocking. Witnesses described how hunters who came back empty-handed, they were killed and eaten, the hunters. Fighters butchered their dead comrades and cooked the flesh over open fires, smoke rising, human meat roasting, not out of choice but desperation. Sometimes it went beyond survival. Some militias believed that eating their enemies gave them strength or protection. Others forced captives to eat the cooked remains of their own people. It wasn't rumor. Survivors told the UN exactly what they saw. Cannibalism here, it was both a weapon of fear and a way to fill empty stomachs when no other food existed. But not all cannibalism in Africa came from hunger. Sometimes it was about power. Liberia in the 1990s. Among all the warlords, one stood out, Joshua Blai, better known as General Butt Naked. Why that name? Because he fought battles completely naked, no clothes, just shoes and a gun. He believes that clothes made him weak. Before fights, he performed rituals. He later confessed that he sacrificed children, drank their blood, and ate their flesh. He told his soldiers that it made them bulletproof. So now imagine being a child soldier under him, right? Starving, terrified. And your commander is naked, standing in front of you, holding a gun, telling you to eat human flesh for protection. You would eat it. Years later, Butt Naked admitted to killing at least 20,000 people. Today, he calls himself a pastor, but his past remains one of the most horrifying in Africa's history. Another Liberian story is just as disturbing. Joseph Zigzag Maza, one of Charles Taylor's close men, he testified years later in The Hague, right? And what he described, it made headlines worldwide. He said Taylor's men regularly killed people, cut up their bodies, and cooked the flesh with they cooked it with salt and pepper. Those are his exact words. He claimed sometimes that it was revenge, sometimes it was ritual, sometimes it was just to terrify their enemies. He even said captured peacekeepers were treated like pork, killed and eaten. Charles Taylor later denied it, but the damage was done. When people remember Liberia's war, they don't just remember the guns, they remember the image of soldiers seasoning human flesh with salt and pepper and eating it. Next door in Sierra Leone, the civil war was just as brutal. The RUF, the Revolutionary United Front rebels, they became infamous for chopping off people's hands, burning villages, using child soldiers, but they also forced new recruits to do something even darker, to eat human flesh. Sometimes it was the heart of an enemy, roasted over fire and shared like food. Other times, captives were forced to eat the flesh of their own family members. For rebels, it wasn't about hunger, it was control. It was about breaking the people's humanity and their spirit so that they could never go back. Survivors, ex fighters, even war crimes trials, they confirmed all of this. Cannibalism in Sierra Leone was used as a tool of fear. And back in Congo's Ituri region, another horror. This time, the victims were the pygmy people, already marginalized, already discriminated against. Now they were hunted like animals. UN investigators, they confirmed that militias killed pygmies, butchered them, and ate them. Fighters roasted hearts, livers, other body parts over fires, believing that they were gaining special powers by eating these. Some survivors said that they were even forced to eat the cooked remains of their own people. This is not myth, it's not rumor. This was war. It turned into something unimaginable. Now let's step into ritual cannibalism. Lagos, 1999, under a bridge in Oshodi. Police discover a man named Clifford Orji. At first, it looks like a homeless shelter, but inside, police find skulls, bones, cooked human flesh. Orji admitted that he eats human meat. Lagos erupted in fear. Was he insane? Or was he part of a bigger ritual network? Nobody really knew. He became Nigeria's symbol of cannibal horror, and his name is still lingers today. If you want a full episode on Clifford Orji, I have it on my social media, so watch it after this, okay? 10 years earlier, another Nigerian case shook people in Ugep, Cross River. 4 men killed a man named Baba Okoy during a burial. And instead of denying it in court, one of them admitted, yes, I ate the flesh of the deceased. The community was horrified. What? This wasn't tradition. It wasn't culture. It was crime wrapped in ritual. 2017, South Africa. A man named Nino Mbata walks into a police station with a bag. Inside a human leg, and he says, I'm tired of eating human flesh. At first, the police think he must be insane. But then he takes them to a house where they find pots filled with human body parts. He and others had killed a woman, cut her up, cooked her, and eaten her. This was not ancient history. This happened in 2017. And then there are the albino killings in Tanzania and Malawi. Witch doctors, they told people that albino bones, skin, or blood could bring wealth. And people believed them. Albino children were dragged out of their beds, hacked to pieces, arms, legs, genitals cut off to be sold. In 2008, attackers slit the throat of a baby girl, collected her blood in a pot, and drank it. This was not hunger. This was not survival. This was greed dressed up as ritual. Uganda's Idi Amin. He carried the reputation of being a cannibal. People said he ate his enemies, stored human parts in freezers, even served them at banquets. Amin once joked that, I don't like human flesh, it's too salty. Was it true? No proof, but the rumor was enough. It added to his legend and the fear. Then Jean Bedel Bokassa crowned himself the emperor of the Central African Republic. But his throne wasn't what made people fear him. It was the whispers that he kept human bodies in palace freezers, that he served human flesh at banquets. Nothing was ever proven in court, but the rumors, they destroyed his reputation forever. And cannibalism isn't just Africa. In the US, Jeffrey Dahmer, He killed 17 men. Police found human heads and organs in his fridge. He admitted that he cooked and ate their flesh. And in the early 90s, New York, Albert Fish, he lured children, killed them, ate parts of their body. He even wrote letters to the families describing how he roasted their flesh. And in Germany, 2001, Armin Wives, he posted an ad online looking for somebody willing to be killed and eaten. Shockingly, a man volunteered. Wives killed him, butchered the body, cooked the flesh, ate, and drank wine. He became known as the Rotenburg Cannibal. So, what does cannibalism really mean? For some, it was survival. For some, power. For some, ritual or madness. And for some, it was just rumor, but still enough to terrify anybody that hears it. From Andes crash survivors to Ethiopian famine victims to Liberian warlords to Clifford Orji under the Lagos Bridge to Jeffrey Dahmer to listen, cannibalism has always lived between myth and reality. So the real question is, if you were pushed to the very edge, like starving, desperate, terrified, would you do it? Would you take a bite? Thank you so much for watching this episode. If you like stories like this, please follow me. I tell these stories all the time. Thank you.